Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome. We are here for the book release, for the release of You Look Like Hell from Schuyler Peck. I can't believe it. We're actually here, and I'm so excited to see this book coming out into the world and for everyone to get their hands on this like literal fire, this little freaking magic of a book. Like this, honestly, is one of my favorite releases recently. So I'm so stoked to get to hear Sky tonight. We're also going to have an incredible opening from none other than Devin Devine. I mean, come on now. This is a show. So we're so happy that you're here tonight. And honestly, I don't even want to waste too much time. I just want to get right into that good. So I'm going to ask Devin, how are we feeling? Are we ready to go?
Yahtzee.
Yahtzee. Oh my God, yes. Okay. Just going to add you in here, my friend. And honestly, Devin doesn't really need an introduction, but we're going to do it right. So, Devin Devine is a nationally touring poet, comedian, and performer living in Portland, Oregon. They studied poetry and theater performance at Gonzaga University. Devin is a former organizer for Spokane Poetry Slam and was a member of Spokane's 2015, 2017, and 2018 National Poetry Slam teams. They laugh and write their way through issues of mental health, sexuality, recovery, and love. Devin is the author of various self-published chapbooks, as well as the co-author of the self-published crime noir series Kiss the Messenger. They also happen to be, I don't know, the author of a little book called Drinking to Sainthood, released by some press called Game Over Books. I'm not sure. I don't know. I've heard okay things about them. A queer, kinky Taurus. You can find them snacking and snarfing, likely at a nude beach near you. You can find out more at www.devindevine.me/about. I messed that up at the end, but that's okay. But please, Devin, take it away.
Yeah. Hey, hi y'all. My name is Devin Devine. Really stoked to be here. I got invited to this event because I more or less invited myself. I told Sky, I was like, whenever you do a book release, I would love to read. Yeah, I invited myself. So manifest, kids. And also because I was Sky's editor, and working with Sky in this book was an utter privilege. And, you know, from sitting in a coffee shop in our first chat about what this book could be and what this book meant to Sky to like seeing it in the world, can't wait till I have a copy in my own hands. I know that this book is going to mean a lot to a lot of folks because it meant a lot to Sky to write it. I'm going to get in. Something Sky and I have in common is that once we were both married and once we both believed in a version of God. So here we go. Godless. I do not know what to do with my hands when the room of dry drunks talk about a God I had stopped believing in 10 years ago. Anointed by the boys at my Jesuit college, a splash of sperm on my forehead, or was it the last of the wine? I am the sin. Men crawl home to the church. I bleed into their goblets and all over their pews. Have you ever been fingered while praying? I begin by calling my God an instinct, a twist in my stomach. I call my God a woman. I whisper to my gut, hold the folds of skin in two kinder hands. I sometimes feel as if I pretend to cry, especially at the climax, wondering if I am convincing, calling it great light, all-knowing, vast intellect. I first got sober without a God, for a love more desperate. Then again, when has my love been anything but desperate? I wanted to fuck my youth pastor. He played guitar. I had dreams of his holy hands holding me underwater, wet as a tongue down the center of my spine. You know, God turned water into wine, but did you know I drank as if it was a prayer? Like when my mom pulled over the car, crying like a godless woman. It was the first time I ever questioned anything. Like when I fell and smacked my grown-up teeth. My mother took the Yukon Jack, rubbed it into my gums, and with a kiss to my forehead, she told me my teeth would be fine. I do not have sufficient sour coffee to describe that my God is my mother. My God is the first man who held my hair while I vomited. My God was my husband as he dragged my body full of pills from the bath to the toilet. My God is the psychiatrist who named me alcoholic without ever purring the word as she poured me cup after cup of mango tea. Everyone knew long before I did that my God was waiting for me, patient and thirsty with this gut brimming hope. I may die humble worm, petulant and playful brat with a plate full of dinner begging for pie. I may die still questioning, but not godless. My God knows I will do what I can to quit praying for the men who have brought me to my knees. My God knows I can be more than wet tongue. My God calls me overflowing. This God hands me the goblet and dares me not to drink a single drop. I'm gonna keep going. I'm just gonna read 3 poems. This poem's called Sin Eater. Sky and I have a lot in common. One of the things our books have in common is the dismantling of belief systems. So here's a thing called Sin Eater. A sin eater is as it sounds and also worse. It is ritual, it is a meal, it is at the time of death. The hope to spiritually cleanse the dead. It is a very living thing to wish for. It's surprisingly easy to forgive the dead. Magic eraser, the house clean again. Absolving a man of his sins by eating a meal sounds like a Friday night. Christ begged his body into bread, and just so, the sin eater, hired by the family, would place bread on the body. A ritual is a habit. Good habits keep you alive. Practice being good, and maybe they won't have to take your soul to the pawn shop. Shocking, but I haven't even pawned my wedding ring yet. All my favorite foods are cooked in butter. Sinful. There was a sin eater for a village. They carried all of the sins. Eat when grieving, bored, even for joy, sure, or eat like the sin eater walks into a funeral starved. My grandmother asks when I'm moving home. Looking in the mirror, a ritual, I tisk tisk, the scapegoat plucks sinew from my teeth. I fucked another alcoholic this year, nodded as he said, I have never told anyone this before. I fuck men as if ritual. I open my mouth to their ears, tart with hope, and in spite of living alone, I have never wanted more to turn this kitchen into a dinner party. There's so much I would do for you to knock down the door of heaven. Of course, it starts with carrying the groceries up 4 flights of stairs. Of course, rituals have a purpose for the dead that do not serve the living first. And then this is my last poem. Again, I'm so privileged to be here with Sky and can't wait to see them read out loud from their book. Buy both of our books from Game Over. This is called Sit Stay. I'm a dog owner, despite the fact I know my dog will die. I adopted my dog after a bad breakup. My divorce is not as bad of a breakup as I thought it might be. I want to say divorce, but we never filed the papers. We were both dating again. Yes, it is as if the dog died and I'm at the shelter before burying it in the ground. Playing house with the canine corpse, sleeping with a cold body. I want to play house in the backyard, roll in the mud with the piles of your shit around me. But there's no one to scratch my belly, no one to call me good girl. My dog was mine before the apartment dancing, house buying, my leaving. But I know she must think of Tony in her weird, fucked up dog brain. She might miss him like how I miss him. The convenience of a kiss every morning, his skinny ankles and soft whisker beard and faded hands. I love my dog, despite knowing she will die. But once, Tony laid down in the center of a road and he begged me to let him stay. His prophecies of his demise were the most honest truth he had to give me. He wrote to me when I was in the hospital, the pills out of stomach and new medications on the prescription pad. And he told me how much the dog missed me, how much he needed me. I got a dog to be needed, so I would wake up in the morning. I married a man to be needed, so I would wake up in the morning. But I would wake up to the dog whining at his feet, a bottle of wine in front of him before 7. His eyes bleary, and the dog, she loved him still, and he died. And I love him still. And my dog runs into our empty house as if he's there, as if it is morning and he's been calling for us. Where's my good girl? Thanks, y'all.
Devin Devine, everybody. Please, all the love in the world to Devin Devine. Right now is an incredible opening. Forever a pleasure. I think that was the perfect opening, not just thematically, but for folks that don't know, Devin was also the editor for You Look Like Hell. So I think this is the perfect reading for us tonight. So Devin, thank you so much for that reading. Yes, Joss, damn, I agree. I very much agree. And with that being said, I think we're going to go into our feature tonight. How's everybody feel about that? Is everyone ready to hear a little bit from Sky? Let me hear it in the chat. Let me hear it for the author. With that, I'm going to bring Sky up right now. Love Sky. So Schuyler Peck is a writer, performer, and copywriter living in not Portland, but Michigan now officially. She is the author of A Field of Blooming Bruises, Word Dance 2016, and To Hold Your Moss-Covered Heart, Recenter Press 2019. Among other titles, her work, which explores horror, healing, self-love, sex, feminism, and spirituality since leaving the Mormon Church, has been shared across platforms worldwide, including features in the Artidote and Thought catalog. Schuyler's stories and poems appear in Leon Literary Review, Hooligan Magazine, Juxtaprose Magazine, and more. You can follow her work on Instagram at It's Sky, Hi It's Sky. She loves you. And we love you, Sky. So let's give it away.
Oh my gosh. Between that wonderful introduction and Devin, we're gonna start off crying and we're gonna continue crying and it's gonna be great. Hi, thank you guys so much for helping me welcome this book out into the world after many months of labor and no contractions at all. I finally birthed this beautiful baby into the world. I'm a mom. Congrats, parents. But I'm really excited to finally be sharing this book with you. I just want to take a second to thank Game Over Books so immensely, to thank Devin, who is just a dream editor. Just the combination of a wonderful publisher and wonderful editor has been the only way to bring this book to life, and thank you so much. I also want to start in, we're just going to keep crying, in dedicating tonight to my Papa Paul that unfortunately passed last weekend. He, as you will see in reading this book, is a major part of my life, and I think that you'll come to know him as I have and love him just the same. And it hurts so much that he hasn't been able to see this book come to life, but he's so present in it and he doesn't feel very far. So I just want to dedicate this evening to him. Poet of my entire heart, Papa Paul. And so we're gonna start off with we're gonna start light and just continue to get heavier. So I hope that you guys are buckled up and have your socks on and your horses held. But that being said, we'll start off with Praying to Field Mice. When my friends and I give up the gods given to us, we struggle with what is left to talk to in the dark, what to wish on when we lose our keys, who to plead with when the headache doesn't lift. One friend prays to field mice, no bigger than a sand dollar. One chooses the silver cashier at the grocery store. One falls asleep monologuing to the moon. I take to the green and growing, a colossal pine meditating in the park, the moss a slow devourer of the bench beside it. The smallest god asks the service of me, free. This book is going to deals with a lot of spirituality, heaviness, love, sex, and feminism, and so those are going to be continual themes without the evening. But to very much give a disclaimer, it is not an anti-religion book, and I wanted my Papa Paul to know that as well. We both had such a love of spirituality, and as Devin mentioned in their introduction, leaving religion is a difficult thing. But when I was a child, it was given to me that the future given to me was, there is no way to lead a good life outside of religion. And I found that that's not the case. And so with all of my love for spirituality, I'm taking that with me. That being said, it's time to get into the dark side of things. And so this is one of my favorite poems. If I rip a few things apart with my teeth, I'll feel better. To snarl and gnaw, bite and bark from the back of my throat, claw with the grip of all 10 fingers. I dress the altar with offerings, a pomegranate, the crusted rind of sourdough, a lover's bloodied shoulder. Take every book in the house by either side of its jaw and crack the knuckle of its binding. But oh, I'm nothing if not insatiable. Won't you trust me? My candid smile in the dark, my promise to protect what's precious. Yes. What sparkling porcelain? What clean white walls? How thick are the windows? How close are the neighbors? Hand me your tender. I'm craving to ruin. So a healthy amount of spirituality and little darkness, as all things are. And though I really want to just have the entire night to read this book in full to you, I want to give it a proper sampling. This book was born out of a very turbulent time in my life, as the pandemic was to anyone, but I left a very tumultuous marriage and chose to live alone for the very first time in my life at 26. And so the deconstruction of, spiritual beliefs, as well as the loss of a marriage, whether or not it was good, it was a sense of security and what you hope to believe would be a future, led to what I have only been able to describe as a baptism by fire in finding myself, and the freedom that comes with both of that gratitude and grief. And so in starting things off, here's Divorce During Quarantine. After 26 years alive, I choose now to live alone, of course. Choose now to scrape together the matchsticks of my backbone and warm my hands when I cannot wet the shoulders of friends or clear my head in a coffee shop. A time of promise and ruin. An apartment to myself across the river with more windows and a baseball bat under the bed. I learn all my neighbors' names, buy fruit to eat on the porch, get lonely and lay out on the carpet, lend an ear to any ghost with a good story. In the dark, I scroll through the city. Every 300-character bio on Bumble reads, I don't have a date to the end of the world. When I step into the dressing room to try on different lives, correct myself to debutante when I choke on divorcee, all of a sudden, it didn't have to be a godless church or indecision. It was big hair and a bigger drawl, unbridling a bit between my teeth. How force of habit, trying to make sense of my life as someone else. This is the first time it is mine. Maybe we can meet me at the same time. One thing that's, I guess, difficult in divorcing young in life, but also late in life where, you've been married for 5 years, and for reference, I don't know if anyone missed the introduction, but I was raised Mormon and married young, which I also feel like is a yeah duh combination, like peanut butter and jelly. But and then being divorced and post-religion, which is also a yeah duh combination. But Mormonism is a very, and not to be anti-religion again, but I really want to, welcome an environment of respecting beliefs. But it is an intense religion that has a lot of say of what you think, what you wear, what you say. And so I didn't have very much personality of my own at all. And so that was discovered. All of this has been discovered and new to me at 26 years old. And so this has very much felt like a birth or a homecoming to myself through this book. But the end of the marriage was the most difficult part, in that it is a very hard thing, and through the process of writing this book, Devin was a huge help in helping me gain the language of talking about this, of labeling what abuse is and calling it by its name. And so that was a very huge struggle in this. And so I thank them so much. But the next few poems are a little heavier, and so we'll bear through it together. But I think it's still important, and although it's tough to sit with grief, I think that it's so important to talk about and to sit together as a community as well, because I don't think that we go through any of these things alone. But here is Maybe He Never Hit You. Maybe he never hit you, but he laughs after saying he wished somebody would. But he asks you to stop sharing worries with your older sister, your friends, because you're worse when they're around. But you could walk a library of afternoons, a 26th birthday, that he lies dead to the world, then half wakes to walk and split the seams of kitchen cupboards. He reaches bare hands into the oven's charred mouth, mumbling, but no, I never help with dinner, using only consonants. But he's become a reoccurring Lazarus, become more trans than first name. But he lists 6 different ways he'd kill himself with any move for the door. But on a night your voices ring off the windows, he rips the metal bed frame apart with his fingers. For years, your mind replays the scene and easily swaps in your neck. But even after leaving, you wake in sweated sheets. A neighbor slams their door shut and you pee through a pair of jeans. And it would cause your stomach to empty to say out loud, but days like this, you'd almost believe you'd have left with a lighter chest if it was not a bruise only you could see. Days like this, where you catch the foot of what you know, in the tooth trapped of not as bad as it could have been, you almost wish he did. And of course, there's no way of moving past the heaviness, and we are going to be heavy tonight. But I think it's important to again sit with hard feelings in overcoming, and in I guess not the strength that it gives you, but the power you have for leaving those situations. If I can find my next poem. Okay. Soured milk. I miss you like I miss glass in the parking lot, the summer we all go barefoot. Miss you like I savor the smell of burnt hair or the sweet wet of decay. How you will always be my favorite bounced check, an empty glass of soured milk. I miss you so much. My hands sleep in fists. The house stays hot all winter. I hope your next lover finds the matches I left for them, the instructions tucked into the back seat. You can remove a leech by tweezers, sure. Better to light a fire. And of course, you gotta have a little bit of anger. And anger is a massive theme throughout this book in regaining identity, finding identity, and healing through anger, which is something that I believe in wholeheartedly, as you will see. And playing with that, being a little sinister. This next poem is called When I Say Sinister. When I say sinister, what I mean is, I finish my sentences without my voice curling up at the end. When my date mistakes the evening for an autobiography, the coroner comes to body bag the conversation. Sinister, like hanging up the phone when I hear liquor on the other line, confronting the landlord on her lie, telling you to lower your fucking voice. I do not sidestep beautiful on the street, but double back behind him and squall like a busted organ pipe. There's no need for glamours, vanishing creams. Let me wrinkle in stereo. Welcome the evidence of living to silver and gnarl me over. A spinster that leaves the laugh lines in her best worn dress. All the while, I dance like a cold flame, eyes wild, darts thrown in the dark, forehead kisses before bed. Craft each romance and horror story with the same soft, subversive hands. I honor my ferocity, sear her a rack of lamb, and serve it without cutlery. To do what is scary, I become what is terrifying. I leave no safe exceptions. Yes, and we are out of the heaviness for now. Guess the extreme heaviness. I wish that we were all in a room together. I want to ask how you guys are doing. I hope that you had a delicious dinner or that you're making a really delicious dinner. And I cheers my glass to you. Okay, now for some fun and sexy ghost poems, because that feels right. I'd hire an exorcist, but it's looking like a lonely winter. At breakfast, it occurs to me, I either have a great sex life or there are a lot of ghosts moaning throughout my house. The radiator barks like a jailbird Doberman. Tea kettle whistles in climax. My neighbor asks me to simmer the party down when I have slept the last 6 hours. The plants wilt with a fury, and last weekend I watched the hollow of my cereal spoon invert. But I don't feel as alone anymore. It is harder to be touch-starved if I never undress this eely shiver. When my mother calls, I tell her I'm meeting up with some friends later, that it's almost nice they never want to leave. I only wish we held more conversation than letters on a fogged mirror. I only wish all the kitchen cupboards stayed closed. I really love ghosts a lot. And I really love villainry a lot. And so this book, as heavy as it has been, was also had its extreme moments of excitement in writing and playfulness. This unfortunately is not one, but it's called Tongue Kissing. And in background for context of this, again, in Mormon religion, purity and keeping your integrity, aka sex before marriage, is not allowed. And so in that light, growing up, most of your life is spent like, I need to have no one touching me. I can't be sexual at all. I can't show my shoulders, my ankles, my knees, my elbows. It is not your elbows, but to an extreme that it is most of the conversations that you have and throughout your childhood and adolescence is focused on sex. Tongue kissing. You're not kissing that boy with tongue, right? I almost always, in reading this to myself, I have almost always said, you're not kissing that tongue with boy, right? Anyway, tongue kissing. You're not kissing that boy with tongue, right? The dining room walls are painted turtle belly green, and the table climbs into my throat. This sacred distance between us, and that my father is too far across the room to feel my high school boyfriend's warmth left on my damp shirt collar. See the cherry pits buried under the lip of my bra. We could tell if you have sex, you know, she says. And in this memory, I cannot recall if she wears the ring yet, but has been here a month or two long enough to be the leading authority on how to raise an unmothered girl. It'll show. The shine on my father's head nods with him. Your appearance changes after you have sex. Your hips get wider, your face looks different. I'm 16 and disgusted with the idea of my father monitoring the shifts in my figure, but not knowing better than to believe him. I'm 16 and my world is as big as my lover's hands. Do all the boys know about their glass slipper talents? How they have the power to make me unrecognizable to my own family? Afraid and fascinated and smitten, the callow years of my life are spent exploring the tipping point of a secret. Because defiance, because love, because it fucking feels good. Measure how low I can let a boy dip his hands and still be respected. How far I can wander under their covers and still look like myself. And in direct opposition to that poem is a poem, I Invite My Own Devil to Dinner. And as a little bit of context, and if anyone in here is Mormon or ex-Mormon, please don't tell that I'm spilling all the secrets, or do, it's fine. But a very lauded Mormon ceremony is getting your endowments, which is one of the highest honors in Mormonism that you can have. And it happens before marriage or before you serve a mission. It is sacred covenants, a lot of secret technical terms, making vows with God, and you get special underwear. The rumors are true. But that's given a little bit of context to this poem. You also get a special temple name, which I reference here. So I invite my own devil to dinner. In the holiest place I have ever stood, a white god's taste is expensive. 2 anointed men rename me Tabitha, the temple's 5th one that day. In the holiest place I have ever stood, I giggle in my kitchen, hands full of magic mushrooms, tongue slicked with jokes. A night I let sweethearts play tag between my legs and fall asleep curled into a swan's wings. The wedding ring rattles at the bottom of a shoebox, shimmies off the weight of 3 diamonds. Wine mouth and ink stained on my lover's carpet, we stamp in tattoos with sewing needles. I coax my pelvic floor out of its shaking fist, and my greatest delight is making my friends laugh. Please forward God the uninvitation. Please take back most of my apologies. Ring the bell. Bust the jaw of the champagne bottle. Burn the candle down to its knuckle. Welcome a new era of overcoming and coming more, daring the stalk of my spine to grow thick in the wind. I invite my own devil to dinner. She compliments the way I keep hell at its heels, dedicates the next round of man, I feel like a woman my way, raised glass and forked tongue. I have about 5 poems left, just so that we are aware. And we end on a high note, so we are done with the heaviness. We can all breathe a little bit easier, although one does involve choking, so don't breathe too easily. Let's see if I can find this one. Sorry, bear with me for a second. Fuck being digestible. I want you to choke on me. And this title is absolutely thanks to my friend Nadia, who tweeted this, and I could not write a poem about that. Banger. Fuck being digestible. I want you to choke on me. Growing up, there is one way an argument ends. My father reminds me, you cannot control what others say, but you can control your reaction. And we both know this gym class platitude means a final line to the script, subtitles reading, you are a pair of ears, but never a mouth. Ecclesiasticus 26, a silent wife is a gift from God. Loose lips sink ships. Remember, all the good girls swallow. It is no wonder why I am just now becoming comfortable with the sound of my own rebuttal. Years spent, 10 to 27, believing my best shape was whatever you could fit in your hands. Let love decide how loud I should be. If that joke was funny, what size of miniature looks best? Go ahead. Keep me small and safe kept. Tuck me behind your lady killer smile. Daydream me docile and dulcet against the satin in your cheeks. A bowed rib, trapezing either side of your jaw. A rawhide hacked from the gullet. Feel me? Just there? That sandpaper kissed at the back of your throat? Hot pink budding in your cheeks, quick well of saltwater sting. The audience waits, watching, hushed. And every face turns to you. That indescribable resistance to clear your windpipe. Smother the fire as discreetly as you can. Can you taste the heat of me now? I will admit it is really fun writing villain poems, and I'm a little bit in love with it. And so As much as the anger is partly gone from me, the villainry will continue. I make no apologies. The next poem, and we're just going. I'm awful at small talk, so we're just gonna keep rolling through these poems. As long as I know how to love, I know I'll stay alive. Last night I went for a run, a break to bellow into the black night, belting Gloria Gaynors, I will survive in every step. A woman gathering groceries from her trunk sang with me as I passed her driveway. Her voice, a hand around my shoulders. I've got all my life to live, and I've got all my love to give, and I'll survive. We buried our love in the backyard. It's a rental. When we leave, it will belong to someone else. After writing this, I'll take a break to cry again. I practice counting on the out-breath. Try not to picture your baritone laugh beside me when I watch shows alone. I keep a shovel in the shed. In the morning, I practice counting on the out-breath, finish 2 new poems, and make my boss laugh over a call. I smear glitter on my eyelids and read. I chew and swallow. Tomorrow, dusting the pantry, ingredients for a quiche. That's the magic about ghosts. Whatever metaphysics we're made of, there always ends up being more of it. I know some part of me never learned how not to be in love. What a shame to fool myself that would die when we did. Break for wine. Okay. The next poem is called Creed, and it's after Jenny Slate, who has a small story in her amazing book. Hang on, it takes both my brain cells to find my place in this book. Okay, in Jenny Slate's amazing, incredible book, Little Weirds, she also has a short story called Creed, in which she kind of makes her manifesto for how she would like to live her life. And that felt incredibly timely for what I was going through. And I read that book in the creation of this one. And Jenny, I cannot name a single person more permission giving than Jenny Slate, though Devin Devine does come close. I felt like, oh, this is time. If I'm leaving my belief system, hi Devin, miss you. If I'm leaving the belief system I've held through my entire life, if I'm leaving, the structure of a marriage that has, for the bulk of my younger 20s, it's time to decide what I'm going to make this life about. And so this is Creed. The rusted chili pot rolls over to a contented simmer. Water bubbles a backwards rain. I pour in Epsom salts, add half a braid of sweetgrass, and bathe all 3 pounds of my precious pink brain. Perhaps all she needed was a rinse. Tweezers, gentle tines, relieve hand-me-down beliefs fit too tight around the mouth. Instinct knows what the eyes can't see. A splinter, a church of grown men, measuring the length of my shorts at the tempting age of 9. Women that repeated in their best impression of authority. We'd be better off flatlining and molding beneath a thick rug of soil than to lose our virtue. I do not accuse God when realizing I have been kept from me, but feed my body a terrestrial faith. My homecoming anthem, my fervent creed begins like this. My heart leans all the way back in its chair, shoulders loose, lungs barreled with ambition. I wish strangers good morning, as if we were coming down the stairs, meeting in the kitchen of the universe, my coffee poured with theirs. I siphon the survival out of running, so I do not need to buy new knees at 30, learn enough about wine to leave stuffy dinner conversations, or be a snob on nights I feel like it. A brilliant chorus of lilac paint carols across my face, my overalls, a home where there is no waiting for a go-ahead, porch, a pointed tongue, and my days of orchestra, hammer, brush, and buzz saw. The nights of all crescendo, nipping at thighs, fastening a chain of hickeys around the neck of whichever man, woman, or person that I love next. On the day of my 89th birthday, my dog beats me to blowing out the candles. My friends, in our gaggle of sagging cheeks, still singing. The song of me starts with running cool water over the heat of my embarrassment. How long it takes to discover what I want when I have never had the privilege of being asked. When our 5-year plans are shaved off another 6 months after every forest fire. When there's even uncertainty in ever using a dressing room ever again. It is okay if my dreams look different than they used to. Simply wishing for a gentler existence. Who knows how much I will get to see? Whatever I have for now, I will hold close. I've spent too many sunsets living in the width of other people's permission. I will spend as long as I have left, indulging in my own. All right, 2 more. Thank you guys again so much for joining me in giving this book an introduction and welcoming it out into the world. It means more than I can say. Thank you. And this next poem is really important. Found family is also a considerable theme throughout this book. And even though my Papa Paul and my Uncle Cole are, my immediate family, they were major supporters and major pillars that I could count on through this process of, taking that leap of finding myself and starting new. So this is The Net That Catches Me, which is a series throughout the book, July 2022. 7. California is the only place that always feels like early morning. Even the nights, sipping red wine, I'm going to cry, it's fine. Laughter and empty plates of swordfish. Even the afternoons. Writing by the rosemary bushes. Pacific Coast Highway. My Uncle Cole and I flit from dating app horror stories to where we should pick layover stops on a flight to Portugal. From the back seat, Papa Paul's face is all crease when he smiles. You two are more siblings than uncle and niece. At dinner, the last dumpling hops from Cole's plate to mine and back again, to meet a family member for the first time, already fluent in the shared language of, "Are you taking care of you? Let me know if you need anything. Please be safe." 8. Before I leave, Papa Paul runs his hands over mine. I could count the worries in his palms like tree rings. He tells me he knows how easy this would be, to call this the worst year in quite some time. How beautiful it is then to have elbow room, a bit of blank canvas from its ending, for us to be wrong. Love him, miss him. Thank you so much. And this is the last poem. It's titled "A Ring Around the Coffee Table, Grass Stains on My Knees." I take all of me with me everywhere. Every age and bad haircut coils inward between diaries from 2006 or rom-coms I love that did not age well. Childhood stories dehydrated like astronaut carbonara. I take all of me with me everywhere, and that includes the taste of wood dust in Adirondack cabins, a hammock burn scar around my ankle, the loud-mouthed desire to vacuum out all my little fish eggs and never think about them again. Unfold me like a pop-up book, pressed flower and paper pirate ship. This tab pulls open a box of terracotta planters and Hanson CDs, a sealed envelope of Polaroids, blushed middle names, and carefully folded secrets of those whisked under time's curtain. Scratch and sniff the week in August I rally friends together with snacks and a backpack full of wishes to gawk at the Perseid meteor shower the annual Google search of how to pronounce Perseid. Fingers crossed I got it right. On this page, rub a thumb over a patch of fabric, my was white floral sheets, muddied paw, and monthly blood faucet. An invitation to adore the idea of a good stain. I take all of me with me everywhere. It means I bring my hopeful eyes to every funeral, the crease around my ring finger to every first date, and craft each word from a crucible beneath my tongue. There is so much of me to introduce, and all of it happy to meet you. Thank you guys so much.
Wow, 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 wow. Okay, everyone. Yeah, please, all the love right now in this chat. I just thank you, Schuyler Peck. What a phenomenal reading tonight. I think it'd be good if everyone took a quick second, would take a breath. You know, you just did the damn thing and you did it very well. So
my lovely partner read all of this in one sitting today. So really cheers to him and cheers to you guys. It is a book that needs a breath in between.
Wow, kudos to your boyfriend. Oh man. Yeah, echoing Devin right now. So damn proud of you right now and thinking of you and your Papa Paul. Thank you, Devin, for that. Yeah, just incredible. So we're gonna take a minute, we're gonna breathe, but I also want to let folks know we're gonna do a little Q&A right now. So if there's anything that you'd like to ask the author tonight, I have some curated questions, but I love it when folks add some stuff in as well. But everyone take a moment and just bask in this wonderful flame that we've had this evening. Oh man. Wow. Okay. So I have a few things here. I think what I'll start off with tonight is just asking, the collection, it focuses obviously a lot on rage and anger as a catalyst for healing and self-actualization. And so I would love to know, in what ways did, you know, actually allowing yourself to take these emotions by the hand and truly running with them, as opposed to what our societal norm is of shunning them or, you know, locking them away. What did that illuminate for you? You know, what did that show you in terms of new pathways for growth that sitting with other emotions just weren't allowing?
I think, yeah, shunning anger has definitely been the norm of you know, like you said, the societal norm, and definitely the way that I grew up. And I have a poem in here, Faire le bis, which is French, and I probably didn't pronounce it right. But that discusses that fully in kind of looking at anger in I'm gonna have to deal with you eventually. I've done a lot of closing up on anger, and during this period of my life, it's not that I believed that I was ever better than feeling anger. I think that growing up, I just believed it wasn't necessary, because it is such an outward feeling that focuses all of that energy on someone else. It takes up a lot of space, and I wasn't comfortable with that. I was forced to deal with that, and realize that anger is more of a protective force of that happiness and what you have, than I guess what we're told to believe as an evil thing. And so it was permission granting. And I realized that when I worked with my anger and sat with it, I was deserving of that emotional real estate. And when I paid more attention to that, it's, oh, what else have I been denying myself? If I think that I'm always in the wrong and no one else can be, if that's not the case, what else have I been missing out on? And it turns out a whole lot of life. And that's not something worth risking, you know, up until age, you know, 20, 26, 27 in ignoring, or making yourself small in order to feel like you're not causing waves.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that was a perfect way. to describe it. Too often we're told it's not constructive, right? But it's not until you start messing with some stuff.
Feelings.
And
And it
drowning
makes
your
every
perspective.
emotion afterwards feel so much deeper too. My joy became deeper, my friendships became deeper, my relationships became deeper. I had different interests and just like, yeah, giving myself permission. Anger is very permission giving.
Absolutely. So the book examines a lot of nuances of, in particular, emotional and mental abuse and manipulation, particularly within poems, Maybe He Never Hit You and Tongue Kissing. And so I'm curious, what misconceptions about mental and emotional abuse do you wish people could let go of? In particular, when people try to support, right? I feel like so often people just miss it or we undermine it, in so many ways or try to minimize it. So I'm curious, what things you wish people could kind of like get around or actually truly understand.
Yeah, that's a huge question. But a big struggle in writing about this time in my life and analyzing this time of my life where I was dealing with manipulation, as you said, an abusive relationship. I have always belittled those things and not wanting to make a big deal, not wanting to make a big fuss, and similar to, expressing anger or acknowledging or feeling anger, not wanting to ruffle feathers if I was in the wrong. And I think one of the most illuminating realities in writing this and living through it is that naming things of what they are. Devin was a huge help and support in me. You call it what it is. It's abuse. It's there's drug addiction later on in the book. Not skirting around, not tiptoeing, naming things of what they are. And by belittling those moments in my life, I was not helping myself. And I think it's a lot harder to identify what's happening if you're not, wanting to talk about it with friends or wanting to think about it at all. If you are, this is happening, I'm scared, I'm not going to think about it. You're not, thinking about if this is a dangerous situation to you or aspects of getting out. But one of the things that I think that I would love to have as a takeaway for this book is that it is a shocking reality, and I think statistically, which is mentioned in a poem later in the book called In Absentia, on average, it takes about 7 attempts for someone to leave an abusive relationship, and so it is not as easy as just leave. And I never thought that I would have to deal with that. And I, also remember times in my life where I believed the same thing. Wouldn't it be just as easy as leaving? And once you find yourself in the crosshairs of that sense of danger and fear, it is not as easy as just leaving. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways. Yeah, you never think about facing that or how you do things differently. And so I think getting rid of that idea and supporting friends. I know that it's hard to figure out what to do if a friend is dealing with this, but that would be a big a big change to make, is not just encouraging someone to leave as soon as possible, but figuring out a plan or just creating a support system for that person.
Thank you so much. And I really appreciate your openness with all of these questions. So I want to kind of switch this up and talk a little bit about the just like kind of structuring and an ordering of the book. So obviously this is a pretty intense exploration of grief, abuse, religious trauma, other heavier themes. But you do, and the way these things are arranged, you do find these pockets, for joy or self-reflection. I mean, you even said yourself reading tonight, you had these moments where you scaled back, right, a little bit, to be a bit lighter. And in particular with the series of poems, The Net That Catches Me, I'm curious, how was the ordering process for you with this book? How did you determine when and where to kind of control the flame, right, when to let it really rip and when to kind of bring it back, let it chill out?
Yeah, sequencing this book was a mother. But true to reality, as intense as that time in my life, it feels so weird to say that time in my life where it doesn't feel that far away. But you know, as I was experiencing this immense grief, there was also an extreme joy. You know, the horror of living alone and leaving a marriage, but also the independence and freedom and happiness that comes with it, and exploring what you can do with a life to yourself. And so there was kind of a natural pace of like, you know, in ending a marriage, you know, there's a sequence of heaviness that comes with that, but also sitting with that loneliness for a while, realizing that loneliness can turn into enjoying time spent with yourself, and enjoying time spent in deepening your friendships and finding out your new interests. And so a lot of it was a natural pacing. And I it just, I can't express enough how it did feel like a rebirth, as if I'm new to my life again. In that, like, every anger feels just as intense as every joy. It felt like I was seeing everything for the first time. But also, in those moments, healing isn't linear. And so when I was revisiting old conversations or old fights or childhood, you know, later on in the book, as after I've gotten through the divorce and healing from that, and finding joy in new friendships and everything, revisiting those with new eyes and more analytical lenses, and applying that, I think that uh, that's also like the natural pacing of life. And of course, life always throws in a little bit of comedic timing, of course, when you're dealing with crying on the carpet, and you know, a favorite song plays on the radio. And so balancing, ooh, this is heavy here, let's add a little bit of comedy with a sexy ghost poem.
Right on. I love it. Okay, so with the poem Creed, you have this line, and I really appreciate that you read this poem tonight. I have spent too many sunsets living in the width of other people's permission. And so I'm curious, what was the first major lesson that you got to learn after stepping out of all of those varying widths, right? Whether it was religion or your marriage, what have you, what was like the most like, what was the first revelation for you?
I think in all this time fearing of making that move, of jumping off the deep end of, shit, am I really about to leave this marriage and religion? It's not as scary as it seems. Actually, the first lesson I learned is probably I'm better at budgeting than I thought, and it's totally okay to have a clean house.
Hell
Um,
yeah.
that's actually the
That's a
problem.
big deal.
The less poetic. Budgeting's not that hard. But and I sure know how to clean a bedroom. But yeah, it once I took that leap, I realized that it wasn't an immediate free fall. No danger was occurring to me right immediately after. Like, for some reason you have it built in your head of, oh my God, if I leave this, then I'm going to be out on the street. And which unfortunately is, you know, has been the case for people, but is not happening all the time. You have support systems, you have friends, you have family. But I feared that, like, I would have nothing. I, you know, would never find happiness again, or love again, or you know, having to deal with the volume of a very quiet apartment to yourself was terrifying to me. But the refreshing part of that was I actually really love spending time alone. And it almost became as comforting as a mantra that I used throughout this time of, I will always have myself. And that's something that I repeated then after, with every first date, with every, you know, I changed my job, with every change that I made to my life after that, it was, I will always have myself, and having myself as that baseline of enjoying time spent by myself and knowing that I was sturdy enough to stand alone, it became so much more of a comfort than it was a fear.
Amazing. That's amazing. So the book ends on this sort of kind of Phoenix Reborn moment with the line, "There's so much of me to introduce, and all of it is happy to meet you." And so I am curious, so what are the parts of Schuyler that readers can be excited about being introduced to in future books or collections? What's on the horizon here?
Not more more intensity as heaviness as this. I
No, are you sure?
I'm not going through another divorce. I'm
I'm
a goddamn lesson. So sorry, you will not be looking forward to it. I'm a one in.
No, we're not going to wish another divorce on you. I don't think
can only, yeah, you leave the Mormon church once. But I'm not giving up the villainy. I'm not giving up like this this kind of creepy, sinister ass little identity that I've created. That's been too much fun to play with. And I think that, you know, now that I have my own permission, it's been nice to explore new projects of just, nobody wants to hear this weird interest. Well, shit, I do. I'm gonna write it for myself. And so just a lot of new projects of, I guess, if you were into as much ghost and history as I have been, or just making light of this fucked up world that we live in, through dark comedy or novella when soon. I feel a lot more permission to write what I want, to be more honest about what I'm feeling. I'm not ever going to force a love poem again, which feels wonderful. Everything that I write from here, everything that I write or feel or experience from here on out is going to be more genuine. And so I'm looking forward to that, and I hope everyone else is too.
Absolutely are. Absolutely. So Josh Sabry in the chat wants to know when the horror novella is coming.
Although I had to take several instances of scream, teeth, and knives out of this book. I think scream was in there. Devin, 9 times?
No you know it's done.
Yeah, utilizing a good thesaurus.
All right, so I think I have like maybe one more question here. If anyone in the chat has anything, now's the time. Forever hold your peace. Don't be shy. We sure? Okay. The cover come from? That's a great question. We have a phenomenal. Bring that cover up again. Actually.
Oh my god, happily. I am
the best covers. One of the best covers I think we've done. And
yeah.
a little like, oh my god.
I love it so much. I sent Dylan Samuelson, who made this beautiful cover, and I get shivers every time I look at it. I sent him a Pinterest mood board of what I wanted You Look Like Hell to be like. And believe it or not, Pinterest does have a lot of villain themes if you go digging deep enough, and he just knocked it out of the park. Everything that Dylan makes is A+. Highly recommend.
Absolutely. So this question that I have for you here to kind of close this out, this is kind of something that I tend to ask all of the authors to some degree, because once this book is out in the world, it gets into people's hands, folks are going to get what they want to get from it or interpret what they want to interpret. And so I always like to ask the actual authors, what do you hope that readers take away from the collection in regards to grieving relationships, self-preservation, and anger as a healing process?
I think keeping that mantra of I will always have myself as a positive, steadying force and not a scary thing, would be a huge hope for this book, where that can be a comfort. But also that anger isn't your enemy, as many institutions or beliefs will make you feel like it is. Of course, don't misuse anger, don't bring it out in unhealthy ways, but once you've spent enough time with yourself in cultivating a community, a life of your own that you love, feeling anger can be a protective force in realizing when someone is trespassing on that, or you know, doing that dream and that comfort and that happiness wrong. And so it's a good protector, it's a good healing force, and it can be a portal to finding yourself.
Totally. Wow. I think that's it, everybody. That's it. It's our show. We did the thing. Thank you so much.
Sleep for like 6 years now.
This has been such a wonderful night. We really appreciate you all coming out. Big thank you to obviously our opener tonight, Devin Devine. Forever pleasure. Thank you so much. And to the one and only Schuyler Peck. We were here to
Game Over Books.
You Look Like Hell is going out
Thank
into
you,
the world
MJ.
today. No, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you so much for sharing here with us all this evening, and for being really vulnerable. We appreciate it.
Thank you for bearing with me. Have a good night. Forehead kisses before bed. Bye, everyone.